we get into the video, I wanted to share a special tool that David and I have been using for over 2 years to manage our inventory on Amazon. The tool is called SoStocked, and it is a very powerful tool. It's designed specifically for inventory management. If you're in a physical products business selling on Amazon, you need to be in stock, especially with the inventory restrictions lately. This tool is incredibly powerful. If you're having trouble with inventory management, this might be a tool to help you. SoStocked is partnered with Firing Demand, and they've offered our guests, our listeners, a 30-day free trial. So click the link in the video description to get 30-day free trial. On to the video.
Welcome, everyone, to the Firing the Man podcast. On today's episode, we are joined by Ben Leonard for a second time. For those of you that missed it, we interviewed Ben back in the summer of 2021 on episode 73, where he told the story of starting, growing, and eventually exiting his private label brand, Beast Gear. Since then, Ben has started an e-commerce focused consulting company, Leonard Dot Pro, as well as a brokerage that helps e-commerce companies bring their brands to market and maximize value. On today's interview, we are going to dive deep into some of the major changes in the e-commerce market and what strategies are going to work in 2023 and beyond. Welcome to the show, Ben.
It's good to be here. Thanks for having me, David. Hey, Ken, as well. Good to be back.
Absolutely. So for those of our listeners that did not tune in to the first interview, can you share a little bit about yourself and your path in the e-commerce world?
Sure. Slightly unconventional route into e-commerce. So I'm here in Northeast Scotland, where I live just south of a town called Aberdeen, which is the oil town of Scotland. It's kind of like the Houston of the UK. So I got into the oil industry. It wasn't something I ever really intended to do. My background is ecology. I'm a marine ecologist. And so my role in the oil industry was to tell the oil guys and the engineers that they couldn't throw chemicals in the sea. So I helped those guys to comply with the regulations. And sometimes they didn't like that very much, but I was trying to help them. Then 2016, or actually it was late 2015, I got quite sick with a heart condition, and I'm fine now. But for 6, maybe 9 months, I was signed off work, couldn't do my fitness hobbies while I recovered. I had to take all the drugs. And so I was pretty miserable. And I needed something to do and something to distract myself. And I hit upon this idea of starting a fitness equipment brand and selling the products into gyms. And it was while I was developing my first product that I realized that that was a stupid idea. And actually, I should sell the products to people like me on the internet. So I had this idea to do it through my own website, and I discovered this thing called Shopify that let idiots like me build websites. And then I found out that when I was buying stuff off Amazon, I wasn't buying it from Jeff. I was buying it from other people like me, and I could get an FBA account. And about 3 years later, the business was doing $6 million a year in sales. By this point, I quit my job and I sold that business. It was the first European e-commerce brand to be bought by one of the new aggregators that emerged at the time. So that was the slightly unconventional route.
That's awesome. I really like your story, Ben. It's kind of like, it was like a whole career change and like starting something new and then growing it to a Goliath and capitalizing on it. It's like what everybody's after. And so I really like the story. Thanks for sharing. And thanks for coming back on the show. Excited to have you back on. As David mentioned earlier, it's been 2021 is the last time we chatted. And so very different landscape in e-commerce in 2021 to 2023. Can you maybe hit on some topics of like what's changed since then? What should people be focusing on, and kind of what's the atmosphere look like right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So clearly some pretty major things happened, right? I guess when we spoke, it would have been kind of in the middle of the pandemic. And depending on when we spoke, it might have been when a lot of e-commerce business owners were very happy, or shortly after that, when a lot of e-commerce business owners were definitely not very happy. Let's assume we spoke, but things were looking pretty good because everybody was buying stuff online, everybody's sales were going crazy. Shortly after that, everything majorly shut down in China. So we had the issues of, well, where's our supply coming from? And the shipping prices rocketed. So suddenly our margins were absolutely tanked. So from a selling perspective, things have been pretty hard since that time. Things are getting significantly better now. For instance, factories are typically open again. Shipping prices have come right back down. Competition continues to rise. What's great is that more and more people are becoming entrepreneurs. I think that's awesome. Like entrepreneurship used to be weird, and now it's like a desirable vocation. It's like a sexy thing. Mostly thanks to like celebrity entrepreneurs, I guess, people like Elon Musk. But that means that there's more competition for us as e-commerce entrepreneurs. There's more and more people coming in all the time, and it's getting harder and harder for us on platforms like Amazon. Most people listening, probably Amazon's their main sales channel. And, Amazon is harder now. It's harder to review, get reviews. It's harder to rank. It's much more of a pay-to-play platform. And it used to be like you'd hear the latest hack on a podcast, you'd read about it in a Facebook group, you'd go and implement that, and you'd be ahead of your competition for a few months until that hack got shut down. But that's not really happening anymore because the loopholes are shut. Everybody's aware of all of these hacks. Now, really what's winning on Amazon and e-commerce generally is building a real brand, building something that looks and feels and behaves like a legitimate consumer packaged goods brand. Some people have been doing that from the start. That's always the approach I took, because I didn't plan to just sell on Amazon. I planned to build a fitness brand, right? And when you take that approach, you're building something with legs, something that's sustainable, something that's going to last, and that's how you're going to win. So if you're taking that approach, you're going to be all right. It is much harder. Fees, for instance, are way higher across the board on Amazon. So, he who invests in brand wins. Really, that's where I think the answer lies.
I would agree with all of those changes that you brought up, and some things that we're definitely experiencing in our business is that pricing pressure and margin compression. March 1st, FBA fees went up, and there seems to be, it used to be long-term storage fees. Now we have a 9-month storage fee, and prices haven't moved a whole lot. We keep looking to our competitors to adjust prices up to adjust, and it's a challenge. And so with these things that we pointed out, what does the entrepreneur do? Do they stay on Amazon? Do they build a lifeboat in the form of a D2C website, or maybe explore something like Walmart? What is the entrepreneur? What do you think?
I think you do quite a few things. So I'll start with the obvious, which is directly to do with the price on Amazon. Let's play with that and let's test that. Hopefully pretty obvious, and people have been doing that. I'm a big fan of raising prices. And if you have built a brand that provides a high quality product and actually develops a relationship with your customer off of Amazon, whether that's your email marketing, your chat bots, your social media, you have them subscribe to your YouTube channel. Hey, they're even subscribed to a podcast that you're doing about knitting because you got a knitting brand, or whatever it might be. And you're providing them with exceptional service and a real back-end experience so that they know, like, and trust you, and they're a fan of your brand. Then all of the people that are stuck in the Amazon goldfish bowl just constantly chasing the next sale are going to struggle to raise their price. But you could. You're going to have to test it and play around with it. And I'm not saying you won't lose a little bit of market share, but over the long term, that could pan out well. Let's look at some of the other stuff you can do though. The number of people that I speak to all the time, for whatever reason, probably to do with the fact that they're not really, they don't have the right mindset. They got into e-commerce when they really thought that it could just be an easy way to make some cash. It's never occurred to them to negotiate with their suppliers, not just on the per unit cost, but on the payment terms. Can we negotiate with our suppliers to move from 50% down, 50% on completion to 30 down, 70, 20, 80, 10, 90. What about net 30-day terms? What about net 60-day terms? Even better, net 30 or 60-day terms after they've landed, so that you're actually selling through the inventory before you've paid a penny. Now, this can be tough, but if you've taken the time to build a relationship with your supplier, and you build out forecasts and demonstrate to them what you can do, and even take baby steps. Say, look, I know you're not going to give us, 20% down, 80% net 60 days after it's landed yet, but let's take baby steps towards that. Let me prove it to you now, show you how we can grow, and then next time let's move to this, and next time let's move to this. That's a great way to do it. Another thing that I'm a big fan of is actually paying the deposit and negotiating a deal whereby your manufacturer will store your inventory and you will drip feed it from your country of manufacture, whether that's China or Vietnam or India or Pakistan, wherever, or Mexico. And as they drip feed it, you only then pay the remaining, say 70% on that portion that they ship you. That way you're not paying for the whole lot at once. Lots of things you can do here. How about we think about how to change our packaging so that our product is smaller? How about we think about using 3PL? Are we using software like SoStock so that we're tracking our inventory and we're not overpaying on fees? There's a lot of things that you can do which you'd be surprised your competitors aren't doing, which will then allow you to actually, if you're not going to increase your price, get a bigger margin at the same price and then invest more in PPC and crush them that way. The sky is not falling.
It pays to be an optimist, and I agree with you on that. A follow-up question on the branding piece. There is probably somebody listening right now that has a brand that maybe they sourced on Alibaba, but haven't put they have a product and they're selling it. And they're likely saying, well, sure, I would love to have daily social media posts and a YouTube channel and a podcast and all types of ways to engage my customers. But I'm a solopreneur and I have a limited amount of time and I have a limited amount of capital. And so for somebody who is wanting to step up their game on the branding side of things, what are some, I don't want to say easy, but economical in terms of time input and capital input that you think moves the needle?
First of all, I would say make sure that you understand your customer. And ideally, you're already going to understand your customer because hopefully you are your customer or someone in your organization is your customer. And if you're not your customer, go and do some work to understand your customer and build a customer avatar and make sure that your brand reflects who your customer is, but also who they aspire to be. First of all, what are the things that I only have to do once? So the obvious obvious ones are the things that everybody's talking about all the time. Improve your listings for conversions clearly. But then let's just take an example, right, of something that I used to do. And I spoke about this last week in London at Seller Sessions Live. I say used to. I still do this. I would have URLs and QR codes within my packaging, on an insert or on the packaging, saying to my customer, here's where to get the user guide. They would follow that and land in a messenger chatbot, which people think are dead. They're not dead. They're phenomenal. It's just that people only used them for rebates in like 2019, and they didn't think of using them to build relationships. So they land in my chatbot where, as promised, I give them a link to go and get the user guide. The user guide is hosted on my website. So they subscribe to my chatbot now, where I can deliver them value, like once a week, send them a helpful article about whatever subject matter my brand deals in. That can be automated. So you do it once, it's done, and it can be cheap. They get the user guide on my website. If I want to, I could put it behind an email gate so I can get their email address. Now, that's going to decrease conversions because there's a bit more resistance there to putting in an email address, but presumably they really want the guide so they know how to use your product. So you could try that. Again, you don't have to build that form once. Now I can email market them all with automated flows that I don't have to make once relatively cheaply. These email marketing platforms, the pricing scales as you add more email addresses. So it starts off pretty cheap, to be honest. And by the time you're doing lots of these, you can afford it because you got all the customers. Then within the same chatbot flow, I'm going to offer them a discount, perhaps on Amazon or perhaps on my website, drive them there where they're going to get helpful content that I'm producing that I only have to produce once. It's evergreen. All these things you only really have to do once. I'm sorry to ramble on, but I'll give you one more really easy example that just blows people away. With Beastgear, we had a line of boxing products. I filmed a video of myself at my kitchen table wrapping my hands with boxing hand wraps because I wanted to explain to my customers how to properly use the product. So in that same chatbot where I delivered the user guide, I also gave them a link to go watch this video, which was on YouTube. When they clicked the link, they landed on YouTube. Today, that video has had 5 million views. Now, I haven't sold 5 million pairs of boxing hand wrap. Well, I recorded the video in 10 minutes on my phone. I uploaded it to YouTube, and in about 5 minutes, I added that to the chatbot. And automatically, all my customers got that. When they clicked to watch the video and liked the video and subscribed to my channel, all of that is giving YouTube a positive signal to show that video to more people. So now people who are not my customer but want to know how to wrap their hands for boxing find my video, and they then subscribe and they like my video, they watch my video. And on my YouTube channel, I can now show them more content. Again, all videos I make once in 5 minutes. It's not hard work, it's not expensive, it's free actually. And of course, all these people who don't know my brand yet watch the video and click the link in the video to go buy my product on Amazon. And guess what? Amazon likes external traffic. So I'm gaming the YouTube URL and algorithm and the Amazon algorithm all on autopilot for very cheap, automated, because I'm thinking about customer experience and I'm escaping the Amazon goldfish bowl. So this idea that it's too hard is not true.
For somebody, I'm not asking for a friend, I'm asking for myself. If somebody wanted to replicate what you just talked about, and we don't need to go into a ton of detail, but what do you use for chatbot? What do you use for, what should they tools?
I can tell people a really easy way to learn. Just go to benleonard.pro/tips, and there's a free ebook and a 30-minute video that explains some of the stuff there. But I'll still directly answer your question, right? The first chatbot tool that I used to use was called Seller Chatbot. It was the first chatbot tool developed for e-commerce sellers, specifically Amazon. Unfortunately, it doesn't exist anymore. Good news is the ManyChat is great. I use ManyChat. Email marketing, I use Klaviyo. Plenty of other good ones as well. I'm just a big fan of Klaviyo. I've always used it. I don't think I'll ever move. YouTube is YouTube, right? I have a whole bunch of other nimble, automated and semi-automated strategies that people can use to build relationships. And some of it, even the semi-automated parts that require humans, you can pay somebody in another economy in the world what is for them a very good salary that can support them and their extended family. And for you is cheap. So everybody wins. I do that. I have a team in the Philippines, and it's fantastic because I've worked with some of those guys since 2017, and we have an amazing relationship. They work incredibly hard. I'm able to pay them really well and look after them and their families. But for my economy, it's cheap. So people should consider that. It really makes a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. So to kind of touch on, Ben, whenever we have on experienced, successful entrepreneurs such as yourself, I always like to pull out as much information as we can and share with our audience. And so you started Beastgear, never having any experience, kind of switched careers, started Beastgear, grew it, exited out. Now, are you growing? Have you started another brand? And
if you have, what have you applied to the other brand that you learned from B-Skier that's also worked? Kind of share with everybody, hey, this system, you just took a system from one, plugged it into the next, and is that working? And can you share what it is?
Absolutely. So I own two brands. I have minority equity in a couple of others as a consultant. So one of the brands that I own hasn't launched yet. It will launch on Kickstarter later this year, but I'll still share with you what I've learned there because it's quite kind of interesting. That brand is a brand that I could not have started. It's a brand of parent and baby products. And I'm not ready yet, but when I am, I'm going to be fully transparent about it. Like, I believe that anyone who is coming on podcasts or positioning themselves in the e-commerce space as an expert has like a duty to share what they're doing. And I'm a bit suspicious of anyone who's not, which is why I talk openly about B-Skier all the time. This brand, when we launch, I'm going to go completely public with it, an open book, in two ways. One, because it's great content to make parents who I want to buy the products interested. And two, because I want to share what I learn with the e-commerce community. And even if the brand fails, well, that's still great learning content, I think, right? It doesn't make me a failure. It just means that I'm learning. So what I've learned from that brand is, or what I'm applying to that brand is the high barrier to entry. I've spent close to 70 grand designing the first product. I couldn't have done with B-Skier before B-Skier because I didn't have the money. But what I learned with B-Skier is if I can find a way to engineer a high barrier to entry, I will. So like, for example, in 2017, I jumped through a whole bunch of hoops so that I could register for VAT in France, Germany, Italy, Spain, Poland, Czech Republic, Sweden, and the Netherlands. So I think it's a bit easier now, but it was such a pain. Registering for VAT in Spain was actually hilarious. There's this process you go through where they literally require to have a document stamped with like a medieval style wax seal. You know, the kind of thing we would use to seal letters? You know, you'd expect to, like Game of Thrones or something. And my competitors couldn't be bothered to do it because it was too much of a high barrier to entry. So I absolutely wiped the floor with them when I got into the Amazon Pan EU program, and I doubled my sales overnight. So now wherever I see the opportunity to have a high barrier to entry, I do. So in this case, the high barrier to entry in this industry is a high cost to design the product. But when I do that, I'm developing significant IP and a very high quality product. And I think that the basis of a successful brand is a high quality product, because you can't outmarket a crap product. So that's one of the things I've learned that I'm applying. The brand that exists now is a sports brand, selling some similar stuff that B-Skier used to sell. My non-compete with the new owner of B-Skier is over. And so we're applying many things that we learned, things that I learned from B-Skier that I wish I'd done at the start, such as the benefits of really building deep relationships with your customers and turning them into affiliate and micro-influencers. You know, Cialdini, who wrote Influence, one of his principles of influence is this idea of unity, this idea that people connect better with people who are like them and buy from them. That's why micro-influencers work better than celebrities. So our social media feeds are just full of real, normal, average Joes using our product. Gives us free content and makes other people want to buy from us. So that's worked really well.
I have a follow-up question on the user-generated content. So I would imagine that there's some sort of offer, whether that be discounts or free product. So what is your offer, and how are you communicating with these people to get that user-generated content?
So for a minority of people, we're approaching them and offering them a free product. And I would say that's not user-generated content. I'd call that influencer-generated content, because they're not a genuine customer. But the majority is just customers. People post about your product because they're proud to be seen with it. And people post on social media because they want attention. So within our products, on our inserts, we do say, hey, look, if you post, the best post wins a prize every month. But actually, we don't even need to do that, because people are happy to just post. And why do people post? They want attention. So when the brand that they posted about then pays them personal attention, like literally in the DMs, which is what we do, they're blown away. And we brand the picture up a bit, we repost it, we tag them. They're excited to be tagged by this brand. They're getting even more attention. In the DMs, they'll do anything we want. They'll go and leave us a review, and we'll have a nice conversation. We'll actually pay real, genuine attention to them. We'll ask them how they're doing. We'll say, hey, I noticed you were in San Francisco last week. That's my favorite city in the US, blah, blah, blah. How's your training going? Or how's your knitting going? Or I hope you managed to change the wheels on your skateboard with our new wheels that we sold you, whatever it is. And people are blown away. And then what we do is we save each post, say it's Instagram, right, to a collection. And then 2 months later, we're launching a new product. We come back to our collection, click on each post, click on the username, spark the conversation up again. Hey, Dave, it's been a couple months. How are you getting on? Loved your video the other day of you running in the park with your dog. That was hilarious. They love it, right? You build up some rapport. We're launching our new product. Would you like a discount? Of course they would. You give them the keywords. They go search, find, buy it. You track it in a Google Sheet. Free, cheap launch with a review that's going to stick, because you've taken the time to build a relationship and your competitors are stuck in the Amazon goldfish. Now, I know that somebody listening right now is saying, but Ben, that doesn't scale. It does. I've done it. I've done it when we've been doing $6 million a year in sales. It does scale. All you do is you build SOPs and templates and give them to a team and instructions, and it completely works. You just have to press no attention to benleonard.pro/tips. I'm not this free, like not charging for it.
Awesome. We'll post a link to that in the show notes. One follow-up question, and this has to do with international marketplaces. What are your thoughts on Amazon's international marketplaces? And, specifically in the UK, that's your home base. What are your thoughts there relative to the US? And if there's any you'd stay away from, love to hear that as well.
Let's assume that you're selling in the US and you're doing pretty well. Say you're turning over half or even 100 grand. Once things are taken over and you've got it relatively dialed in, provided you have the cash flow to support it, obviously, and it's not going to distract you from your bread and butter and everything, you've got everything nailed and things aren't going to fall to bits once you start looking at something else, you should expand internationally. The first place I would go to is Canada, because from the US it's really easy, and generally speaking, Canada is going to get you an extra 5 to 10% depending on your category of whatever you're already doing in the US. If you're doing $500,000 in the US, pretty reliably, you turn on Canada, you start storing inventory in Canada, you're going to do another 50 grand. Why not do that? It's so easy. Then I would be going to the UK because it's an English-speaking marketplace. You don't really have to go to very much effort at all to get there. You're going to have to register for VAT and jump through the legislatory hoops and the regulatory hoops, but there are plenty of organizations that can help you do that. I would also get into mainland Europe because guess what? It's a barrier to entry. I talk to people all the time and like, you haven't expanded to Europe yet. I'm like, well, it just seems like quite a lot of effort. I'm like, yeah, of course it's a lot of effort. Like entrepreneurship involves effort. This isn't a side hustle. Like take this seriously. I call it treating your business with the respect it deserves. It's a real business. So go to the effort, because if your competitors aren't, then you should. So yeah, expand internationally. And while you're at it, get on more channels, right? You don't have an Amazon business because you're not Jeff. In fact, I don't think Jeff has a business anymore, but whatever. He's probably still got a ton of shares. So yeah, get onto other channels. Now it's important to think about what channels are right for you. Is Walmart right for you? Don't know. Try it and see. What about Faire? Don't know if you're familiar with Faire. The Faire. It's really kind of cool. It's particularly good for handicraft and homeware kind of things. It's like a wholesale platform. So you'll put your inventory there, and Bob, who owns a little store in Nebraska, can go on Faire and order 100 units from you and stock them in his shop. It's pretty cool. And there's another one similar to it called Tundra. I've worked with clients who have managed to get their stuff on Costco's website. It's done well, and Costco then placed enormous orders to test it out in their Costco's in Texas. And that went well. So then they went across the whole of the country. And the brand, that was like bonkers. And then it was, right, we're going to stock it in our European stores as well. So you never know what might happen when you try a new channel or get into a new territory.
No, it's excellent advice. And I would like just to highlight for all the listeners, Ben made a comment, is like when someone says, oh, that takes work. Yeah, it does. And those are the people that choose to do that are the people that are successful. And the people that choose to not do that are the people that you'll beat. Just wanted to highlight that. I want to touch on M&A a little bit. So it's been a couple of years since we've had you on, Ben, and you've got your hands in M&A quite a bit. And so what does M&A look like in the e-commerce space? From 2021 when we last chatted, it was like full steam ahead. We had aggregators everywhere taking over the world, and now in 2023, what does the space look like?
Yeah, so let's kind of deconstruct it a little bit. I like to think that there are kind of two comings of the aggregators, right? There's like 2018 to 21, we'll say, right, and then 2022 to present. And so the first coming of the aggregators, the first part of the first coming of the aggregators, right, I would say was 2018 to kind of 2020, the start of the pandemic, right? They were buying basically everything, but more or less at about 3 to 4x. But a lot of people with pretty crappy businesses were able to sell them. These guys were well-funded, fairly arrogantly believed that these businesses they're not real businesses, they're just selling crap on Amazon. Like, we'll just roll these up and make bank, right? The business model was cash flow arbitrage, wasn't it? It was buy these businesses at a low multiple. Together, they're worth more than the sum of their parts anyway. So the moment they buy them, they've like tripled or quadrupled the multiple. But also, we're going to benefit from economies of scale and improve operational efficiencies to improve the EBITDA. Wonderful. On paper, that works. And on paper, it kind of was working. Then the pandemic hit. Multiples went absolutely bananas. And we saw people with really very poor businesses selling them for absolutely incredible multiples. And a lot of terrible business owners got very rich. And good on them, right? I don't blame them. It's fantastic. What they were doing was buying absolutely anything and seeing what would stick. Capital was so cheap. They just wanted to rapidly grow their portfolio. Unfortunately, though, the aggregators had a lack of foresight. They failed to realize that these are real businesses, that require serious operational capability. And they failed to hire the talent who could actually run the things. They also bought a lot of businesses which worked in the old environment. Easier to rank, easier to get reviews, less competition, more loopholes and hacks, PPC way cheaper. But now in the new environment, those businesses, which I was going to call them brands there, but many of them weren't even brands, right? They were just mishmash of stuff, just didn't work. And the wheels completely fell off. And the lack of operational capability and the lack of, look at some of the nimble things I just spoke about involving chatbots and email marketing, YouTube, the DMs, podcasts. They're not doing any of that. So all the stuff that the owner might have put together, ask me how I know, they just stopped doing. And then they wonder why the brand tanks, right? Then, of course, with what has happened through the second half of the pandemic and following that pandemic, the economic environment completely changed. Investors got very, very spooked, and many of the aggregators completely pulled back on acquisitions, buying basically nothing. In fact, several of the top old school aggregators completely got rid of their entire M&A teams because they needed to get their shit together internally, improve operational capability, strip out tons of ASINs that weren't making sense, and get their act together. I'm pleased to say things are looking up. A lot of the aggregators have got themselves in a much better spot. They're still not perfect. They're still never going to run the things as well as individuals do, I don't think. But there's also some really great newer aggregators who are not financial guys who raised money. They're e-commerce guys who raised money, and they get it, and they know what they're doing. We've also seen people who never thought they would be aggregators become aggregators, agencies, for instance, who really know what they're doing and realize we could buy these. That would make a lot of sense for us. So now where we are is this. If you have a Me Too commodity selling random stuff, you're going to struggle to sell it for very much or not at all. But if you're building a great brand that looks and feels like a real brand, is building a following of customers who love your brand and your products, and you're treating it with the respect it deserves, you can absolutely sell that business for a fantastic multiple, for a great deal structure, provided you take it through a serious mergers and acquisitions process. So that doesn't mean flipping it. It doesn't mean sticking it on a marketplace. It means going through a real, well thought out strategy, potentially for many months, and finding the right buyer and getting the right deal. So that was a bit of a ramble.
I think it was an excellent kind of, phase one, phase two, before and after. And so that was awesome. Before I hand it over to David for any other final questions, I wanted to give a shout out, Ben. I can't remember which platform I've seen it on before, but you've released a series of videos. I don't know if those are still live or not.
Oh, it was, we did. Oh, yeah. You can still get them.
Can you share with the audience where they can see them?
Certainly can, yeah. So we made some funny videos to explain some pretty dry stuff and also to hopefully save people from doing the wrong thing. If you go to ecombrokers.co.uk/movie, you can see these little video clips. Each one's like a minute long, and then there's like a little Hollywood style trailer. I encourage you to watch them all because they're good fun, starring yours truly and some people who are better at acting than me. Yeah, ecombrokers.co.uk/movie.
That's awesome. Yeah. If you're listening to this, wait till you stop driving. Go watch those. They're hilarious. Awesome. David, over to you for any final questions.
Yeah, we've talked about Leonard Dot Pro. We've talked about Ecom Brokers. Can you tell us more about those and what types of clients you're looking for and how our listeners may benefit?
Absolutely. So Leonard Dot Pro is my website. To be honest, the website probably needs a bit of a refresh. Started out as a site where I was mentoring folks. Been doing a little bit less of that now. Now it's more sort of consulting. So people that I consult with are e-commerce businesses, large and small. Got clients who are sort of private equity backed portfolios of brands who realize that it's the guys on laptops in spare rooms that are better than they are. And we've got people who have got a big ambition. Their business is doing, 150 grand, but they've got a lot of ambition. And I'm consulting with them. And I always find a way to make it work. If there's somebody that I feel there's a fit with, you've got to be building a real brand and you've got to have passion and ambition. Ecom Brokers is our brokerage. We're more than just a middleman or a brokerage. We're accountants, we're M&A experts, we're e-commerce business owners who've bought and sold our own brands. Our North American deal director, John, is an ex-Amazon insider and an ex-aggregator insider, so he brings that. And we will work with e-commerce business owners to plan and execute a real M&A process, treating your business with the respect it deserves rather than flipping it like a garlic press. That's kind of those two things. And then I guess the other thing that's kind of what I do is I'm kind of on the speaking circuit a bit with no real goal other than I enjoy meeting people at events. And I think speaking is a good kind of a business card You can prove on stage that you know what you're talking about, and who knows what doors that opens. And I'm writing a book, which comes out in October.
Awesome. We're going to have you back on when you release that book. So, all right, Ken, why don't we get into the fire round?
Yeah, let's do it. Ben, are you ready for the fire? This is fire round number 2.
I am ready for the quick fire round.
What is your favorite book?
My favorite old book is The E-Myth Revisited by Michael E. Gerber, and my favorite new book is Quit Stalling and Build Your Brand by Ben Leonard.
That's awesome. I like the new one. I'm going to get the new one. What are your hobbies?
Fitness training, paddleboarding, and travel.
Very cool. What is one thing that you do not miss about working for the man?
Incompetent people higher up the org chart than me.
I love that one. Last one. What do you think sets apart successful e-commerce entrepreneurs from those who give up, fail, or never get started?
Well, first, we give ourselves permission to start. And then while we're going through it all, we've got resilience, we've got adaptability, and we take risks, but we take calculated risks, not stupid risks.
Excellent answer. Excellent advice. Over to you, David, to close out the show.
All right, Ben, if somebody is interested in working with you, either with a consulting company or through ecom brokers, what's the best way to get in touch?
You can email me ben@Leonard.pro or ben@ecombrokers.co.uk.
That sounds great. Well, want to thank you for being a guest on the Firing the Man podcast, and we're going to have to reconnect when that book launches.
Yeah, let's do it. I'll send you guys both a copy.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for watching this video. If you got some value out of this, would you please hit the like and subscribe button? This is a free way to support the show, and it really helps us build our audience.